welcome back. This is Carla Vazquez with Local Small Business Resources, Rochester, New York. And today we'll be speaking with the L and Bail team, a legal professional. And so if you're a small business owner and you'd like to share your legal experiences, please do so in the comments. So today we're welcoming Joseph Jackling, Esquire, owner of Jackling Law PLLC. Thank you so much, Joey, for joining.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, Joey, we know legal advice is so important for small business owners. Some may not realize how important from the time they get started and then as they progress. So please share about what you do and how those legal services can be important, even essential for small business owners.
So I'm what's called an outside general counsel. That can take on a couple of different meanings depending on how the particular individual focuses their practice, but mine really is the true blue outside general counsel practice. My practice areas are not limited to a particular type of practice area. Instead, I have decided to focus on a particular type of client, that being the solo entrepreneur, the startups, the small businesses, rather than say somebody who is just a wills and estates lawyer, for example, or an intellectual property lawyer, for example.
Right. So your focus is small businesses, and we appreciate that. Joey, please just explain what you mean when you say general outside counsel as opposed to what?
Sure. So an outside general counsel is the contrast to an in-house counsel. An outside general counsel is an outside lawyer who does not actually end up on the company payroll.
Payroll. Okay, great. That's the distinction. Okay.
That's the difference, right?
Yep.
Rather than hiring the lawyer as an employee, you're hiring the lawyer as an outside lawyer.
Great. Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to ask you to expand on, particularly as you focus on sole proprietorship and small business owners, what services could you provide for them?
So there's four, and one overarches the rest of them. It kind of acts like an umbrella. So I'll tackle that one last. But I basically handle the entire business life cycle. So I'm involved in business formation and planning, which is the seed phase, right? You're cooking up an idea for whatever it is that you want to do, however it is you want to do it. Right. I can be involved in the operational phase, which is sort of like the middle portion where hopefully most businesses spend most of their time. And then I also can support business owners through the succession and planning phases.
Okay.
So what that means when you de-jargonize all of that is business formation and planning is basically the choice of business entity. Whether you're going to be a sole proprietorship using just a DBA or a trade name, or whether you're going to form an LLC or a C Corp or an S Corp or a nonprofit, whatever it is that you might want to do. The professors who taught me framed that as how you want to frame your economic activity.
Right.
I think that's a cool way to position that. I think it's a great way to think of it. The operational stuff is more like what you do every day during the business. So a lot of that's governance, right? If you need support with human resources functions, if you need an employee handbook printed or a policy memo drawn up, or if you're not sure how a particular policy should be implemented, if you're looking for support with intellectual property to a point. So there's a particular kind of intellectual property called patent law that requires a separate bar exam.
Right.
I'm not qualified for that, frankly.
Okay.
But trademark and copyright and other kinds of intellectual property, I am. So those are things that I can support people with also. A place that trademark comes into play a lot of times is choosing your business name, right? So when you're choosing a business name, the idea is to try and pick one that's broad enough to support a good search engine marketing strategy, but that's particular enough to be protected by federal trademark law. So there's kind of a needle threading exercise that can go on just choosing your name. And a lot of people don't even really think of it at that point.
Right.
They may need legal support. They may need marketing support just in picking their, the name.
Right.
And then the succession planning piece. A lot of people think of succession planning, particularly individuals think of succession planning as wills and estates, right? Like I got a will done, I need a health proxy, yada, yada. But business owners have a different take. So some people intend to pass down that business.
Right.
So the succession plan is how do I pass this on? Not, what do I do with it when I die?
Right.
The succession plan could be, I plan on selling this. So how do I get it ready to sell? Your serial entrepreneurs are those sorts of people who they love the startup phase and they don't want to do anything else.
Right.
So they'll start something and, 5 years later is a long time for them.
Okay.
They're looking to, to get that thing funded and sent on its way. That's a whole different strategy than the people who are running the family business, right? Maybe they
Right.
want to pass that on.
Right. Or for people who are starting small businesses for the long term. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just it's a different approach. It's a different strategy. You want to organize it differently,
Yeah.
depending on what you want to do with it.
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that even at the very beginning, when you're choosing your entity and choosing your name, again, like to your point, I think many small business owners don't realize that, maybe some industries lend themselves more readily to certain types of entities than others. And, getting legal advisement right from the start can just help them,
Yeah.
avoid a difficulty down the road. So, can you share about any missteps or pitfalls I'm sure that you've observed in your experiences that you can help small business owners avoid as they start their businesses and move forward?
Sure. I think the biggest pitfall or the biggest mistake that I see people making is they don't reach out for help early or often enough.
Yes, yes.
Um, and I know that sounds maybe very simple and maybe a little obvious, but it really is the truth. It's also a little bit self-serving, right? Coming from a lawyer saying that, you need to hire a lawyer to get some help early on,
Well,
but
it's
it's
been a
true.
theme through this whole series that,
Yeah,
get that legal advice, get that bail team advice early from the bank, from the accountant, from the insurance, from your attorney. Get it early, to your point, so you can avoid some of these missteps.
yeah. A lot of missteps that I see, so like just some easy examples. Classifying employees, right? Let's say that you're an early phase business owner and you're going for your first hire. And you don't know whether that person should be considered an employee or an independent contractor. And if you choose wrong, there are consequences for that, and they can be quite serious from a tax perspective. There's others like choosing your entity type, right? So the difference between a sole proprietorship that just uses a DBA trade name and an LLC is a shield, basically, that stands in between your business assets and your personal assets. So there's a lot of choices very early on that can make or break an entity or an enterprise, depending on exactly what it is and how you want to run it.
Okay.
Um, so those are the sorts of pitfalls that I see people making early and often. The naming convention is another one. They'll think that they can just trademark their whatever, and they can't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they get upset because it's not protectable. But if you
I
had
know.
sought counsel in the first place, you may have been able to get a protectable name.
Right. Because it's such a litigious society that if you pick a trade pick a
Yeah.
trademark that interferes, I know there's one particular computer company that, yeah, I talked with Jen Burns earlier in the series
Mhm.
from the Business Insight Center at the library, and she said, so stemmed fruit is definitely off the table if you're going to use a trademark because you might get a cease and desist letter. I was surprised at any stemmed fruit, she said.
Yeah. And yes. Yep. That's all I'm going to say is yes. Stem fruit is probably not a good idea.
So, Joe, you talked about succession planning, and so when you're speaking to a sole proprietor or just a one person DBA, what is the difference between their type of succession planning, which, like you said, may just go away when they go away, as opposed to succession planning for the other entities?
So, a sole proprietorship DBA doesn't exist in perpetuity. That's one of the big differences between an LLC, like a full-blown formal business entity, and a sole proprietorship DBA,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So an LLC, an S corp, a C corp, a B corp, basically any kind of entity that you have to form through a Department of State, will last basically as long as the paperwork gets kept up.
okay,
A DBA doesn't. So in addition to like the shield, that the LLC or the entity can form between your personal assets and your business assets, the DBA it doesn't exist in and of itself on its own.
right. It only
Aside
exists
from
because as the owner exists, it exists
right,
for the owner. Okay,
yeah.
okay, all right.
So succession planning for those types of business owners is a conversation about, well, do you want this to pass when you pass, or do you want this to pass on?
Hmm.
So, in a lot of people, let's say you're a hairstylist or a barber, right? And you don't have any children, or your children don't want to be hairstylists or
Great.
barbers. Well, all right, what do you want to do with that barber shop? You want to give it to a cousin? You want to give it to a nephew? Do you want to sell it? What do you want to do with it? And that's really what the conversation sounds like. And depending on that answer, there's a ton of different things that you can do. The other thing is, if you've got an entity formed, are you the only person in the entity? So are you a single member managed LLC? That's one way to go. If you're a multi-member managed LLC and you have other, I'm going to say partners, that's not what they're called. They're all called members, but
Right.
you can think of them, colloquially as a partnership. You have to consult those other people for what they want to do. You all have to make that decision together about how this business is going to survive, one or all of you. Like, what if you're all in a tragic accident,
Right.
or a plane crash or something, something terrible that nobody really thinks about. Those are the kinds of things that you want to have considered ahead of time, because if you don't, and then you have to figure them out post hoc, or even worse, you let a judge decide,
Right.
how to clean it all up. I'm sure people would much rather have made those choices for themselves.
Sure. Sure.
So that's a lot of times what that conversation sounds like is, are you a true solo? Do you have any partners? Do you have any heirs? Do you have anybody you want to pass this on to? And if you don't, do you want to sell it? Or do you want to just close it down?
Yeah. So, Joey, we end each video with 3 tips from the professionals, speaking about what 3 tips can small business owners take away as far as legal considerations.
Get help early and often. A lot of
The
businesses,
big, yeah.
yeah, I bet you that's been a theme throughout this webinar
Yeah,
series.
yeah.
Yeah, that's probably my first piece of advice to just about anybody, is to get help as early and as often as you can. Lean on your community resources. I think you'll find that if you put yourself out there as a person who wants to do something for the betterment of everyone else, whether that's starting a barber shop or a card club or a collectibles shop or anything, if you put yourself out there as somebody who wants to be that person who betters the community in that way, I think you'll find that there are a lot of people out there who want that end goal, even if they want to do it differently than the way that you want to do it. And you can work together with those folks to bring about that result. That's a really unifying thing that I have found, particularly in the Rochester, New York area where I'm at right now. There's a lot of people here who really want this place to turn up.
Right. It's a
Do
lot of community support. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
In the first video in this series, the list of resources is extensive because we talk about various business insight, including startup resources. And so that list, including community and local government resources, to your point, yeah, they don't have, but small business owners don't have to go it alone. There's a lot of support in this area, to your point, yeah.
And the last piece of advice that I like to give to just about everybody who's starting a business is that there's a ton. So New York gets a really bad reputation for being an over-regulated environment, or a heavily regulated environment. And to a point, that's true. And there are times when that's going to make you, really frustrated. But on the other hand, there are times when that's super helpful. And one of those things is how much infrastructure the state government has built out to try and help business people get started.
Yes.
If you Google New York Business Wizard, chances are one of your first results is going to be the actual state website, New York Business Wizard.
Yes.
That will tell you how to launch all sorts of different things.
Great.
I don't know if we can put the link to that in the comments or whatever, but I have it if you'd like it. And I give it out to everybody. I start a lot of my consultations with that. Like, hey, have you seen this? Have you tried it? It's a great place to experiment, basically.
Sure. Since you mentioned that, yeah, we'll attach that in the description box for the resources for this video. So yeah, that would be helpful for small business owners. Thank you. Yeah, for mentioning that.
It's one of my favorite places to start. And the coolest thing about it is, like, you don't have to, you're not married to any of the choices that you make on it.
Right.
So you can do a couple of different, quick business plans through it just to kind of see how different choices might impact the different outcomes that you might get, the different regulatory regimes that you might fall under, the different sales tax outcomes that you might have to be subject to or not.
Yes, yes.
Right? It's a great forecasting tool.
It sounds like a good resource. So I may add it to the resources for the very first video of this series, the long list of resources also, because it sounds like it would be useful for businesses at whatever stage. Yeah. Yeah.
I used it to help me launch my own,
Oh, wow. Oh,
that's why I
wow.
pass it on
That's
to
an endorsement. That's quite the endorsement.
yeah.
Joey. Oh, well, Joey, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate you participating and sharing your insight and
Yeah.
your expertise. And if you would like to reach Joey directly, Joey's contact information will be in the comments for this video. So thanks for watching today. Take care and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.